Hello, welcome on Media Dialogues today. As the year winds down, the spotlight is on digital streaming or OTT platforms that have continued to grow in 2020, the first normal year after the COVID pandemic. Unlike in the United States, where streaming companies have seen declining subscribers and have disappointed stock markets, in India, OTT platforms have mushroomed, growing audiences and capturing popular imagination with their content and marketing. To understand how they strategize for the Indian market, key trends that have emerged in the past year, and the future of entertainment as it looks at this point of time, please welcome Gaurav Banerjee, content head for Disney Plus Hotstar, as well as for all of the Hindi TV channels of Disney Star, Monica Shergill, Vice President Content at Netflix, and Gaurav Gandhi, Vice President of Amazon Prime Video. It's lovely to have all three of you together in the studio. And who's going to start by spilling the secrets of how the streaming business works? Who's going to go first? Gaurav?
All right, I'll take a crack at it. So I think it's been a good year. And as you mentioned, I think the India story is kind of playing out very differently.
Yeah.
And we've always kind of seen that happen with different kinds of media in India, right? So if you think about the last 20 years, a lot of global conversations have been about, for example, that there are choices between, print can grow, or TV can grow, or films can grow, or streaming can grow. I think we have, over a period of time, seen that in India, those growth curves continue across different kinds of media equally strongly. And I think we are beginning to see that unfold as streaming grows, but it's not necessarily coming at the cost of television or of films. So I think it's a good momentum that this year has seen, and amazing risks on creativity.
Yeah.
So finally, for all of us and people watching this show, incredible content, and more incredible content this year than perhaps in earlier years. So in a good space.
In a good space. Monica, he's going to say that it's not coming at the cost of TV. And I'm sure all media in India is still growing. But we've seen what the theatrical space or the exhibition of movies has been, right? Except for some massive tentpole successes, movies haven't done well. Television, while it's growing, there's no doubt about that, it hasn't captured the popular imagination. So what has 2022 been like as the first normal year after the pandemic, which saw adoption of streaming in very large numbers?
I think 2022 has been a very defining year, if I would say, because the last 2 years caused a very seismic shift in the way people were consuming content. And so many new people came on to streaming, experienced digital entertainment. So while it's really true, and I believe in it, that TV is going strong in India, the cinema industry is going strong in India. Theatrical viewing may be impacted right now in the short to medium term. But I feel that streaming is complementary to all forms of entertainment. And I say this very consciously, even from a global perspective. If you look globally also, I think as the largest streaming service, we see a lot of engagement, tremendous engagement, the largest subscriber base. But even so, streaming viewing is actually sub 10% of the total TV time. So there is tremendous headroom to grow. Even globally. And I think India, we are just barely scratching the surface. There is so much. I mean, the streaming viewing has gone up by +1 hour, on a daily basis. So there are more and more people who are adopting. There are more and more people who are spending more time on streaming. And we believe in having a very wide variety, of content on the service. So we see that at any given point in time, and this is an average for global consumers, in a month, they're consuming 6 different genres. Right. That itself tells you how people are actually consuming, the rate at which they're consuming, adopting. So really wide-scale adoption.
Wide-scale adoption, Gaurav. Is that borne out in 2022 with you guys? What has the experience been at Prime? We know in May you did this very big bang announcement, right? Not just of content strategies, but even access. You got other channels onto your platform, became the marketplace for other channels and entertainment platforms as well.
So I think for us, it's been a very interesting year, and obviously besides the big tailwind on the streaming industry, some big things that we worked on were converting from just being a SVOD player to being an entertainment hub. which with the channels business and now movie rentals as well.
Yeah.
That was one part of it. I think the other part, building on Gaurav and Monica's point, was the fact that the creative industry in India is so rich and robust. And in India, this last 2 years, we've seen a big change, which is really the linguistic palette expansion of the Indian customer. So we are, for once, not about just the Tamil film industry or the Hindi film industry or the Telugu film industry, but really the Indian content industry. We've seen our customers fundamentally expand the number of languages they watch content in. So building on that, we released not just Hindi originals, but big Tamil originals this year. We built on that and had a whole range of films that we released. And you could start the year with Pushpa and KGFs and Kantara, and then and among that big Hindi films like Gheraiyan and many others. And then we turned into co-productions as well, recently with Ram Setu and a few others coming up. I think with all of that, we also about access expansion. Reality is that India is a heterogeneous country, not just from taste point of view, but also, how what customers can afford, customers want different things. So we like a mobile-only offering or Prime Video mobile edition. That was another way of doing it.
When you look at data like Ormax has put out, saying that there was a 20% growth over 2021 this year, where the streaming audience was concerned, is that something that do you feel they've got this right? Or is that an underestimation?
While we don't want to get to specific numbers right now, what we are seeing is that just the sheer impact of streaming services and the reach they're able to provide is so phenomenal now. I can give you an example from our end, that today we are seeing streaming of Prime Video across 99% of countries' zip codes, right? And most of the movies that we are putting out or shows moving out are watched in deep interiors of the country. Now, if you look back a few years back, there was a whole thing about, hey, SWAT services are amongst, only going to metros and key audiences. Right? Reality is today we are so deep, not just in India, but able to provide that reach to movies and shows around the world. So I think that's a big part of it. The second part is the number of content pieces that we are able to support. And the film industry is a good example of that. Today, between the three of us and a few others, the movie industry has a lot of its revenue coming in from streaming, right? And is able to make way more movies, which will go to theatrical, go to TV stations, and come to streaming. The impact of that is phenomenal, the investments we are doing there, the jobs we are creating. So I think people talk about these numbers in a very vanilla way of X% growth. They don't talk about the impact streaming is creating overall and how it's sitting as a center of entertainment.
Yeah, but the more you grow, the more your impact will be. So I think that's why we're interested in the growth, isn't it?
Yeah, the growth has been pretty healthy.
It has been healthy.
And continues to be very, very strong.
Monica, Netflix globally, a lot of what is happening inside there is available for us to hear and see because it's a listed company there and, things are being shared because of that. And we know that the drop-off in subscribers was something that was a big concern in the US and the North American markets. In India, I'm sure the story is very different. How would you describe 2022 from the subscriber growth perspective?
I think I'll answer it in two ways, Anuradha. Globally also, if you see, streaming in general, it was a tough start to the year.
Yeah.
And led by Netflix, where, we had slowing, revenue growth and profitability. But I think how we are closing the year is actually a great testament to the strength and resilience of the streaming industry, the headroom to grow, the fact that this is the present and future of entertainment because it gives control and choice. Through the year, if you were to see, in the last 2 years, we pulled forward so many subscribers across the globe that it had to slow down. That is, the nature of every business, and streaming too would go through that. But what has happened through the year, quarter on quarter, is that we have delivered, in fact, this has been our biggest entertainment year globally and locally. Locally, if I would say, the kind of titles we've launched, like Darlings has been the biggest, global Indian original film. We've taken RRR to the world, 65 countries. It was trending, Gangubai in 49 countries. Monica, Oh My Darling has done so well. Khaki is really making waves. All our season 2s of Delhi Crime, Jamtara, all these shows. There have been so many titles locally that we have launched. We've launched 28 titles this year across formats. So it's all done well. And globally also, if I were to say, in 6 months, when we pivoted the ad tier, it just talks to what streaming is capable of doing and, you know, how you can really reach your audiences. We are all on a growth curve. And I say this for all of us, in India particularly, you know, the rate of growth, we are very far away from being a mature market.
Of course,
You know, so there is so much room to actually go, like Gaurav said, across the metros into tier 2 cities, tier 3 cities. And actually the adoption that is happening right now with the infra which is available, with the 5G rollout, it'll absolutely turn into, you know, a very different and a better scenario. Even now, you know, the fact that we provide, all of us as services, provide people the opportunity to really stream, you know, even with low data, all of that is really helping the adoption.
Growing the market.
In growing the market.
And this growth that you saw in 2020 and 2021, you see borne out and continue on that upward curve in 2022.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And even across APAC, I would say that India is one of the fastest growing markets.
Growing for Netflix. Gaurav, what were the highlights for you guys at Disney Plus Hotstar?
So several highlights, but let me talk about 3, right? I think first, we saw our franchises become bigger. So whether it is things that we have created out of India, like you mentioned, like Arya just before we started this interview. So we had the season 2 of Arya, season 2 of Special Ops, and Criminal Justice. And I think all those 3 shows really, you know, have amazing momentum, huge popularity, wonderful writing, incredible budgets. And I think people are beginning to get a taste for what quality storytelling is all about, thanks to not just the work that we're doing, but what's happening at Netflix and Amazon. And I think that's a momentum shift that's incredible. I think the second thing that we have seen is that there's a lot of amazing possibilities that come from being integrated with a television creating machine which puts out, you know, roughly 20,000 hours of fresh entertainment content every year. And I think we've used that to create a lot of initiatives which are for us Disney Plus Hotstar first, right? So, you know, we have this incredibly powerful show on TV called Anupama, which is watched by, wait for this, 200 million people in this country. And we created a prequel to that, which rests solely on Disney Plus Hotstar, right? Then we have the show in our regional languages, Big Boss, which is anchored in Tamil by Kamala Hassan and in Telugu by Nagarjuna and by Mohanlal in Malayalam. And we created a 24/7 feed, which was exclusively available to Disney Plus Hotstar users, right? So we have managed to do things that only we could do for having the #1 TV network and being able to power that with the biggest OTT in the country. And that's worked really well. And I think the third part for us is we are also the home for incredible Disney content like Marvel, right? And I think Marvel has incredible momentum in India. So whether it is a Doctor Strange or the new season of Loki, all of that created huge impact. So I think we're in a good space, led by creativity.
Let's pause for a bit. We've got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how the content strategy works for streaming services. So stay with us. Welcome back on Media Dialogues. We're discussing the streaming industry, which continued to grow in 2022. And to do that, I'm talking to Gaurav Banerjee, content head for Disney Plus Hotstar, Monica Shergill, Vice President Content for Netflix, and Gaurav Gandhi, Vice President of Amazon Prime Video. Streaming introduced the concept of binging to us. But I now see weekly episodic drops that are happening. Now, what is happening here? Is it going to change? Is it going to be a little bit more like TV? And of course, we have live TV streaming via sports. So is streaming going to be is it going to become a little bit more like TV as we go along? That's my question, Monica.
Across services, everyone's trying different models. But speaking for Netflix, I think what we have observed and what we really believe in, and we introduced the binge format, and we continue to believe that bingeable television is actually the way of the future. Yes, there are shows which we drop what we call non-all at once, which come in weekly format. We have a lot of shows which come from television to us on our service. They come in a weekly format. We split sometimes when we do competitive reality shows. We drop the finales later. One of the big things that COVID time sort of we experimented with was batch viewing.
Right.
Even then, it was a binge format. Like Money Heist came in 2 batches, Stranger Things came in 2 batches. But
So,
I think
that was because of production disruptions, perhaps.
Production
right?
disruption. It was also interesting as an experiment at that time. And we saw that the fandom increased with that. However, we continue to believe that binge is a way to really create cultural moments, to really allow, you know, the storytelling to become bigger, the franchises to become bigger. Wednesday is a testament. It's been #1 in 83 countries in 2 weeks. Anuradha, it's a vertical curve. That's how, you know, the binge format, and when you have a creatively excellent series, that's what it does.
Gaurav?
From our point of view, the way we see it is that it'll depend show to show. And because in many ways, if you look at seasons, right, you have all of this and the season comes in a year later. There are conversations happening all through there as well.
Right.
How do you keep momentum going of that between season 1 and season 2, and how fandom of characters grows? So, and do you have to do something to engage people in the middle as well? So I think we have a bunch of experiments going on there. That's part one. The second interesting thing which is happening, which I think is, and both of them talked about season 2s, is what we are seeing that, you know, usually people see season 2s being a natural, you know, fallout from who watched 1. But we are actually seeing people consuming the show even more, and more new customers joining in season 2 level and season 3 levels, who actually then go back and watch the previous seasons as well. So actually the overall consumption pie is growing, because we're still very early days of original content creation in India in this space, right? So we've had fantastic, you know, season 2s and season 3s this year with Panchayat and FOMO Shots and Breathe and so on. We've seen a whole new range of customers come into the franchise itself, which is, you know, otherwise people would not think they think counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But that's changing a lot.
That's interesting. Gaurav, so much data, so much viewing data, consumption patterns. I mean, everything is just right there for you to consume, right? Which TV doesn't give you that easily. You're still waiting on ratings to guide you and decide investments on content. How are you using all of this data to make those big content decisions?
I think the way we think about it is we would like to be creative first, right? So what is most important?
But can you be creative when there's such overwhelming,
All the
compelling data of how many people watched what, where did people drop off? I mean,
that's our job.
Know, how do you balance that?
Otherwise, you do not need human beings who are thinking about it all the time,
right? It is creative first.
So I think for us, for sure, it's creative first, right? So when you look at a creative person's work, right, do you want to feel like working with them, right? And when you read a script, when you watch something that they have shot, does that excite you? I think that's the first question that everybody in Disney on the creative side is asking, right? Does this sound innovative? Does this have a voice that has not been articulated earlier? Because there's a problem with data. Data can only tell us what's happened in the past. It cannot tell us what customers, consumers want to watch tomorrow, right? And data has a second problem. It will be telling us that we're being guided by the past, and it would be making those voices more important who have already had their big peaks and successes, rather than helping find the next new thing. And that's what our jobs
to find the next
is.
new thing.
Absolutely, right? So I think in a world which is like, you know, really flooded with a lot of data, sometimes the smartest thing to do is to kind of tune that out a little bit. You had made a great point on how these episode drops are working. And we mentioned two things, right? That there could be binge watching and there could be weeklies. On Disney Plus Hotstar, there are dailies, right? So I think a massive amount of viewership on our platform is not just for the TV content that we have created, which goes on Disney Plus Hotstar first, but now we are beginning to create shows that happen daily, right? We tried our first daily this year, one in Tamil and one in Hindi. And both are experiments that have worked very well for us. We want to do more of that, right? So I think this whole idea that this is a show that I really like and something fresh and new would be available to me every day is incredibly powerful, and that should work for us.
Let's pause for a bit. We've got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how the content strategy works for streaming services. So stay with us. Welcome back on Media Dialogues. We're discussing the streaming industry, which continued to grow in 2022. And to do that, I'm talking to Gaurav Banerjee, content head for Disney Plus Hotstar, Monica Shergill, Vice President Content for Netflix, and Gaurav Gandhi, Vice President of Amazon Prime Video. Monica, is there a fear that as streamers become more popular and as they spread across India, and as there are pressures from your global parents on, what kind of, whether subscriber acquisition will be the focus or revenues and profitability is the focus? The point is there a fear that streamers will start adopting pages out of TV's playbook and therefore, do things that are more mass, that are appealing to a large audience rather than several specific segmented audiences?
I think actually it's a great question and something that all of us sort of think about.
I'm sure.
When you're thinking of growth, when you're thinking of penetration, talking to the widest set of audience. I think that is not likely to happen for a long, long time. At least, I don't know, from a Disney Plus Hotstar perspective, because there is, TV and streaming together and there is a lot of catch-up audience. It's probably a different way of thinking. From a Netflix and maybe Prime Video perspective, it could be a different way of thinking. From a Netflix perspective, we are very clear that the diversity of content, when you go to the, as Gaurav was saying, the 20th million customer, you're not going to lose your, your core base that you also talk to. That is actually a very, very loyal viewer base. And that is looking for those engaging and exciting stories that you can bring on. So I really feel that we are not on the path to go down TV, which is why I said that binge for us is very important. Also, creating a range of stories and really talking to every type of taste and viewer out there, audience member out there is very important for streaming. It is, like he rightly said, a network and not a channel where you're programming one kind of content and it's only available to you sans choice. What streaming gives you on demand in every which way, choice of content, choice of creating your own prime time, choice of your device. I think that choice and control is only set to increase and not decrease.
And so it will protect TV streaming from going down the route that TV has gone down in India, entertainment
also
channels.
I'll tell you, people's tastes are changing every day. On our service itself, we see, besides English content, local content is very popular, and then English content, and then you have Korean and Spanish. People are watching anime, people are every single day experimenting with, when they hear of something, they want to watch whether the language is theirs or not. South content, the way it has started becoming pan-India. So I think audience tastes are changing and they are becoming so open to experimentation that you can't box them again. You cannot box them.
I'd like to respond to that.
I
think the question that you're asking is a very important strategic question. Sometimes it is not served well by a very simplistic reduction of it, which is that just because something is mainstream, it is low quality. I think that, and I'm not saying you're doing that, but a lot of what we hear is that, just because you want to talk to the entirety of this country, you are dumbing down. Right?
Or you're flattening things. It may not be dumbing down, but it is flattening things because you have a general audience that you're talking to across ages, and it's diffused, it's a family audience.
Not really. As someone who works for a big TV network, let me tell you that our hits do not come from that understanding at all, right? So I genuinely believe that it's about outstanding creativity, and some of this pushback is just a little bit of elitism, and we should be carefully guarding against that. You know, the great Shakespeare said that, you know, I am creating my plays for the understanding audience, and he meant those people who didn't have the money to be at the back where the chairs were, but were just standing below the stage and watching his plays.
No, look, when I say taking out of TV's playbook, the comment is on TV becoming, you know, just very broad because it's capturing, you know, a wider audience, whereas the whole point of streaming was, if I want to watch a small Malayalam film called The Great Indian Kitchen, I will find it on streaming, which I might not watch, I might not find on TV.
No, you need to be able to do both, right? You can't really do only one.
You will have a Suryavanshi and you will have an Aryapu.
Right. Yeah. No, but I'm saying,
and that's not a choice that any of us want to make.
Small niches oxygen, and TV deprives small niches of oxygen because that's you're selling on reach, you're selling on the biggest reach, right? Which you're not doing on streaming.
You're doing that with ad-supported TV, right?
Yeah.
But in the past, definitely in the United States, and certainly to a much smaller extent in India also, you've had niche channels, right, which have been distributed because people want to pay to have those channels. We had a channel dedicated to golf, right, in this country. So I think some of those choices have always been made. But I think the larger point here is we are here to try and create outstanding creative products. And we are happy for the consumers to decide where they want to watch it. One of the biggest things that's happened this year in the streaming landscape are the rights to the IPL, right? Incredible amount of money being spent. Since you didn't ask, I brought that in.
He's preempted me.
Now, that is something that everybody in this country wants to watch, right? Which is why the value is so high, right? So I think one of the biggest things that all of us are trying to do is to find stories that have deep cultural resonance, right? And they must deeply move each one of us. And if they move a lot, many of us, it really helps define mainstream culture.
I'm not saying be niche and stay niche. If niche becomes the universe, fantastic.
I think I want to just add to that point. It's important we address it in entirety. So, first of all, you're comparing the TV world, which has a format of a fixed point chart of the fact that you have a slot at 8 p.m., 8:30, and you put what's the most widely viewed possible by the economic model of TV, as against a streaming service which doesn't have a fixed point chart, which doesn't have a slot. We can drop any content we want at any time for a set of audiences. So first of all, we are not beholden to the fact that I can only put one program at a point. That's one. Second is that for each of us, and I can talk about us as example, when we create a Mirzapur or a Family Man or a Panchayat, which is widely viewed across the board and loved by all, we also create widely loved services, you know, content like Made in Heaven, which is watched by a large segment of audience. So we create both, and we'll program all of that as we go forward and many more. We'll create a modern love as well.
So you're unshackled with streaming.
And exactly. And we will create, you know, Sodal in Tamil, which is watched across the country. So I think the reality of this is that you have to think about it in a very different dimension compared to TV. You are catering to a large base, but of tastes and preferences, who may not geographically be say at same place, at different places, and also moods.
Right. So okay.
So therefore, you're not beholden to a slot.
Yeah. Okay. So it's good to hear that you know, streaming will not play by TV's playbook, and doesn't mean that everything on TV is bad. It's just that TV, because it goes for reach, tends to have to flatten a lot of nuance, and you know, very reliant on stars, which streaming was not. But streaming is now again getting, you know, very star-led projects are coming into the play. Yes. Am I right on that one?
No,
I think there are so many new people breaking out on streaming and actually are becoming stars.
Absolutely. Pankaj Tripathi is, you know, front page on newspaper.
But you know,
I mean, he wouldn't have got that kind of
Anuradha, what
marketing.
is also there, what is also important to see is that there's so much demand coming from streaming. Like whether it's behind the lens creators, it's on-screen talent, there is a tremendous demand, and actually the supply is lesser. So, you know, we are going to take, it's a journey of expanding the talent pool. You know, writers, directors, technicians, even actors, you know, we are still in the process of expanding, and we are not stopping. We are actually commissioning a lot, very diverse slates, talking to every kind of taste, mood,
Right.
You know,
so that
people,
and that diversity will, that commitment to diversity
yes,
will continue.
And so many new people are
Right.
coming into the creative ecosystem
Yeah.
to actually tell those stories, to put their passion on
Sure.
screen. So I think there will be big stars, there'll be projects helmed by them, but there are so many new stars who are actually becoming bigger stars.
The characters really was the
Yeah,
character,
yeah.
and then you put a right person behind the character.
Absolutely.
And there is no choice or choice to be made between diversity and mainstream success is, I think, the point that I wanted to make, right?
Right.
I think we must all be diverse in our storytelling.
Let's pause for a bit. We've got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about how the content strategy works for streaming services. So stay with us. Welcome back on Media Dialogues. We're discussing the streaming industry, which continued to grow in 2022. And to do that, I'm talking to Gaurav Banerjee, content head for Disney Plus Hotstar, Monica Shergill, Vice President Content for Netflix, and Gaurav Gandhi, Vice President of Amazon Prime Video. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick question on IPL since you brought it up, Gaurav. Now, what are you going to do to fill that hole early next year?
No, I think we're in a good space, right? I think one of the biggest things that we're deeply conscious of is that we want to build this business for the long term, right? And I think long-term profitability is an incredibly important part of anybody's plan, and ours for sure. And for that, our key focus has been on developing our own IP. What is it that we are creating ourselves that lots of Indians would love to watch across screens? So I think that, to my mind, is our primary focus, right? You mentioned Ormax earlier. Ormax does a yearly listing of the most popular shows in streaming. Last year, we got, the last poll that I saw, we got 5 of the top 10 shows in India, right? So I think when it comes to what our strategy is, we are usually dropping at least one original every month, most months more than one. And I think we've got an
Are you not going to miss the IPL? And the geo bundling.
We're not going to miss it because we have it on TV.
And the geo bundling that also came with the IPL.
That's fine.
I mean, a lot of changes in the ecosystem,
yes,
right?
and you know, IPL has been really good to us. We've had it for a really long time. It has helped us become the biggest streamer in this country by far.
Yeah.
And I think it's done its job.
But are you worried that you might see a drop in subscribers because you don't have sports? I mean, you don't have the IPL, not sports, sorry.
We like the hand that we have. I think we've got an incredible set of brands that we have built in the last 5 years, right? And we have all the TV content and the global content, and we have lots of other cricket as well. We have
that's true.
all the rights to BCCI, ICC, Cricket Australia. So there's a lot of cricket that we will continue to serve our users, and we feel good about that.
Gaurav, sports is something that you have already. You have the New Zealand series where cricket is concerned.
That's
you have the NFL in the US, which was a big thing. But you didn't bid for the IPL here. So I'm a bit curious about where the sports strategy in India is going.
No, so yeah, you're right. We're doing a lot of stuff in sports around the world. NFL is an example. EPL in the UK and other places. Football as well. And then we started with Cricket New Zealand and India. We just had our, the men's team visiting, and it was great. I think the way we look at our portfolio of content across the board with our original series, local and international, all the movies, licensed originals, co-productions. And then we look at our broader marketplace offerings. We think sports is an offering, but we are very thoughtful, calibrated about what we're going to get to, and we are learning our way into it. So absolutely, we will do more things in this space, but at this point we evaluate every single opportunity on its own merit and what makes sense for us to do. And we have our priorities set out, and we have
So it didn't make sense at that price?
I think the way we looked at, we evaluated everything, like I said. I think our investments in building out original programming across languages
is where you would want to focus at this point.
Movies and shows is our focus for now.
Sure.
And cricket we are doing, as we said in this one, and we'll see as we go along to evaluate more.
Right. Monica, we hear games all the time, right? And on my iPad, when I go to Netflix, I get the games option, but then I have to go out and sort of download it on the App Store. So the question is games, how important is games in the India scheme of things? What can you tell us now at this point of time, given how much we're hearing about it?
I think games are a very important bet for Netflix, I would say, in the long term.
Yeah.
Right now, at the point in time we are, it is a space to build, to really put our heads down. And as a company, we really believe in being a learning company, testing and learning, innovating all the time. So it is a part of the company where, we are just putting our heads down, we are looking to build, we are in the trenches right now, and we are constantly looking,
even in India.
Our product development,
Right.
happens globally. So, but once the games, games are available to everyone across the board as part of the service, and everyone has access to them. When, we ramp up on that, I think the whole world will get the games at the same time. They're, the bigger games, already we have a deep catalog, and we are looking at expanding that year on year. And just going back to sports, I just wanted to say that...
You're getting into it.
Huh?
Let's do it.
Come on.
Sorry,
Give
Monica.
the property. Yes.
Continue. Yeah.
But we really believe in entertainment as a whole. Sports is a part of that entertainment. Sure. We do a lot of brilliant, absolutely brilliant narrative sports storytelling. And I think that is an area that we are really working deep into.
To double down in.
And totally doubling down. And then games is being developed.
Gaurav, how do you all look at what has worked for you? What are some of the filters or metrics you may use? Because I think producers who are watching this show, content creators, will want to know how you decide to reinvest further. So anything from very specifically, not for the industry, but Disney Plus Hotstar. And I'm going to come to both of you with the same question.
Sure. So I think there is a lot of data that we get, right? One of the most important things for us is just how many people are watching. Right. I think it's a really important metric for us. And second, how much time are they spending on it? Right. So I think engagement is the most important metric for any content creator. They get interested in the premise and watch through the first episode. Did they choose to drop off soon? Did they tune in and come to watch the second? Did they finish the series?
So
all those data points are kind of important.
What would you tell producers, when they come to you to pitch?
We want high quality storytelling that surprises users. And before that, it must surprise us.
Monica, I know you give us a top 10 every week, I think, both in shows and movies.
We actually give every week a top 10 list, globally what's working, how many hours of viewing happens, so both in English and non-English.
Sure.
So that's a very important thing which is open to everyone to see what's trending, what's working, who's, how are the audience members consuming those titles across the world. So in fact, incidentally, from India, we've had on our film list, out of all the number of weeks that we've had the top 10 lists, we've almost every week we've had, on the top 10 lists our titles across series and films. Then we have something called a double thumbs up, which we've recently launched on the service, which is how we look at the member value score. It's a difference between like and love. Did you love this? Did you like it? So I think that's a very important thing. And to what Gaurav was saying, engagement is actually the truest, the absolute truest form of measuring success. Because when you have more engagement, you have more retention, more people are watching, they are spending time on your service, then they talk to more people, they recommend to more people, then you get more sign-ups. It's like a virtuous cycle.
Right.
You can take those learnings ahead from data, but a lot of it is gut. And, really seeing what audience members are watching, what the trends are, and to be able to program for not just your taste, but many diverse tastes. And that is something an exec really needs to think about all the time, not program just to your tastes.
Interesting. Gaurav?
I just add one dimension to what Monica and Gaurav just said. I think engagement definitely is a key thing, and show completion and hours you spend and all that. I think, but we also look at how any new show or a film is going to get new customers in.
Yeah.
And especially in a category, where we just, overall, so much headroom to grow and so on, more people coming into streaming. So what is the ability of this show or a film to get newer audiences
into the
streaming?
platform? Yeah.
So, so that's one lens, engagement is the other. And third is, are you super serving somebody? Are you expanding, the set of appeal of this show? So for example, I could say, hey, some people love crime, let me give them more crime or love stories. Or am I able to say, here is a customer who usually watches this, but could I get them to watch many more things, expand into now a documentary or all that?
Basically,
So
stay with the platform.
stay with the service, do more,
Yeah.
spend more time, be more engaged, and then overall everything works out with that. The flywheel spins on its own in terms of recommendation and so on. So I think there are many of these lenses.
Yeah.
The lens that Monica just last spoke about data and judgment and gut at the early stage, critical, because that's why you make new bets, and then renewing second season. But I also think understanding your customer with data and what they're consuming across the service, when your service is very diverse, with other shows and movies, gives you a lot of insights about what bets you could take. Not with the story. The story, of course, will be new, original, authentic.
Yeah.
But what kind of trends are you seeing emerge? It's a combination of, therefore, a great gut and judgment, along with what your understanding of your customers and potential customers is going to be.
Interesting.
So you do balance all of that all the time.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to close soon, but I have one question to all of you. We saw last year the regulatory framework, the IT 2021 rules, which asked you all to sort of label your age, age-appropriate labeling, descriptors, 3 levels of grievance redressal. How's that going? Is there any feedback to policymakers that you have in the way that's worked out for you guys over the past year?
I think we've all sort of, we're all members of the regulation, bodies and all of that, and we have, all compliant. I think the fact to give customers information about, hey, this is for this age and maturity ratings, content descriptors are good things for customers.
Yeah, sure.
They're actually giving customers more information about what they want to get into. The fact that there's a redressal system where you can actually, send a complaint to us and we could reply back to it, or to a tier 2 is something which is effective and working.
And a tier 3.
Yeah, but I'm just saying. But the fact of the matter is there is a mechanism in place, right?
And does it need tweaks?
No, I think it's currently working.
Okay.
Working well. I think the way to think about this really for us in a very matured way is, as we program for a very diverse audience, keeping in mind tastes of customers and all of that, working within the framework of the law, we are in a category which is just starting out. We are such early days of this, right? So a framework helps. So in that sense,
Monica, any tweaks, any insight on how it's working?
I think it's working well because it's cut out a lot of noise, There was so much noise which was actually holding us back more and was making people second guess everything. So having a formal mechanism and framework where you know that there are levels, you're able to channel people through those levels. So I think in that sense, it's brought some order into the
because
system.
there's been a lot of, non-state actors, anybody and everybody getting up and having
social platforms were becoming, the pulpit, and just it was becoming very chaotic. This has become a framework, a formal mechanism where you know that you have to go across the mechanism.
Yeah, I broadly agree with what both Monica and Gaurav have said. I think we need a framework, and therefore having this is helpful than rather have nothing. We also need continuous dialogue because this is a new industry and it is a creative industry, right? So I think every dialogue, and as we go deeper into this, more trust that we can build with different players in this, the better for all of us, and the better
it's also
for
an
our
industry
society.
with a much greater creative license than any other industry in this country at this point of time. So, I mean, I think we need to be very cognizant of that, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that license also comes with a lot of responsibility, right? Because I think this industry puts a lot of power in all our hands, right? Because whatever it is that we're choosing to put there will get watched by lots and lots of people.
Right.
And therefore, we need to be recognizing that power and its ability to do good. And when not done right, its ability to do bad. And therefore, that responsibility needs to constantly be built upon.
And this regulatory
and more
framework
trust is
allows you to course correct if there are
That's right.
missteps.
And,
right?
and I think
Also-
people, sorry.
Sorry, I was saying responsible storytelling, but also the ability to take bold, creative choices responsibly.
Yeah.
I think that balance is something
Yeah.
which having a framework has helped everyone to be cognizant of
Yeah.
and to take
No,
and not to
that's a
be on
very
the
interesting-
defensive.
yeah, very
because,
interesting point.
you know, we are actually in a borderless environment. We are taking Indian storytelling to the world, Indian talent to the world, and to constantly, you know, have noise around it
Yeah.
and not be able to make good storytelling choices, new storytelling choices is also not a good thing. So I
Yeah.
think this framework in that sense has brought all of us together to be able to have some guardrails of protecting the storytelling also and not just the other way around.
Who's got Pathan, I want to know.
We do.
So,
Okay, so I guess by the time it lands on the streamer, all the noise will have died down and gone, hopefully. But final question, Gaurav, is there anything on either of their platforms that you wish was on yours? And I'm going to ask all of you this question.
I think the magic of all of this right now is...
No, diplomatic
I'm-
answer. Something that was on Netflix or on Disney Plus Hotstar that you said, damn, I wish it was on
I wish
Prime
they
Video.
can both be on our channels right straight away, and we can all be very happy.
Well done.
All of us can get happy. Right?
So he wants everything. He wants all
that's-
of you.
we have an option available right now. And good.
That would be big news. Monica, anything on these two guys' platforms that you wish was on Netflix?
I think I love a lot of content across the board, but yes, Family Man for sure is
Family
one
Man.
show that I would have liked.
How lovely.
Yeah, and Gaurav didn't return the favor. I will remember that.
Full service on Monica. I'm just
He wants everything that you have.
Netflix is very happy being a standalone service, bringing amazing entertainment from around the world. I've said it, the tagline.
All right, Family Man. I think that's a fantastic
Yeah,
show
that's a
on
fantastic
APV. And on Netflix, I really like Darlings. So yeah, I'll go with that. Monica mentioned that.
Yes, and since you had already said it, for me also it was the same. Arya has, been a show that I've liked.
Oh, wonderful. Well, it was a fabulous conversation. Thank you for giving us an insight into how something we spend so much time on as consumers today works. And, good luck and looking forward to some great stuff to view and spend more time and money on in the new year. Thank you very much for joining us.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, that's very interesting. Gaurav, Monica, Gaurav, thank you very much for joining us and giving us an insight into how streaming works and what we can expect going forward. And thank you very much for watching. Catch Media Dialogues again next week. See you then.